Hi everyone, yasas que kalos to another episode of Dimitra's Dishes. Today we're making a vegan tahini cake with chocolate and coconut. It's delicious, it's moist, and it's also not too sweet, so it's really nice with a nice cup of coffee or even with a glass of milk. It's really good and so easy to make. It comes together in one big bowl. Let's get started. All right, we're gonna start off by greasing a 9 by 13 inch baking pan. You can grease it with baking spray, but since I'm gonna be using light olive oil to make this, I'm just gonna drizzle some in here and brush it all around. You can use a coconut oil for this recipe too. I don't have any right now, but coconut oil would be perfect since there's already coconut in the recipe. What you don't want to use is a extra virgin cold pressed olive oil because it's going to be a little bit bitter and too heavy. Next, let's go over the dry ingredients. I have 3 cups or 400 grams of all-purpose flour, a heaping teaspoon of cinnamon, 2 tablespoons of baking powder. It sounds like a lot, but it's going to make the cake nice and light, and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. I'm just going to whisk them all together before I start whisking the wet ingredients, because once you whisk wet, you're going to need a different whisk, or you're going to have to wash it and dry it before you put it in the dry ingredients. Okay, that's done. Now we're going to whisk up the wet ingredients. So for the wet ingredients, we are going to need a 1/2 cup of coconut oil or your favorite vegetable oil. I like to use a light olive oil. I like to buy it from Costco. It's slightly refined, but it still has a little bit of olive flavor, a little bit of the fruitiness, but none of the heaviness, which is really nice. And then my favorite brand of tahini, not sponsored, is this brand over here, Soom. It's nice and light and very pourable. Since I have about a cup, which is all we need, 240 grams, I'm not even gonna bother mixing it, but whenever you open a jar of tahini, you wanna make sure you mix it because the oil rises to the top. If you are not a fan of tahini, you can substitute your favorite nut butter in here. So you can do almond butter, peanut butter, cashew butter, whatever your heart desires, you could use that. Then I'm gonna add 1.5 cups of granulated sugar. You can go with 1 if you like it just a little bit lightly sweetened. And we need some baking soda in this. I like to add baking soda with the dry ingredients, just a teaspoon of it. A teaspoon of pure vanilla extract and 2 teaspoons of pure almond extract. Almond and coconut go really nice together. Okay, and I should have started off by mixing my egg substitute, which is a flax egg. I have 2 to 3 tablespoons of water in there. The recipe calls for 2.5 tablespoons. I don't really get the half. I always end up putting 3 tablespoons. And 1 tablespoon of ground up flax seeds. This is gonna help bind everything all together. Vegan cakes tend to be a little bit on the crumbly side. They don't have the egg in there, and this just helps the mixture stay together. And then I have this unsweetened vanilla coconut milk. I like to add this in here too. You can use almond milk if that's what you have, whatever you have on hand. We're gonna need 1 1/3 cups of it. And that's all for the wet ingredients. Before we add the dry ingredients to this, I'm gonna chop up my chocolate. The recipe calls for 6 ounces of semi-sweet or dark chocolate. I think that the dark chocolate is a little bit too dark for it, but if you like a less sweet flavor, go with the dark chocolate. I'm using semi-sweet, and this is actually 8 ounces because each bar is 4 ounces. I'm not gonna save the little piece of, chocolate for another recipe. I'll just put it all in here. But you can definitely use milk chocolate if that's what you like. And if you don't have chocolate baking bars like this, you can use chocolate chips or chocolate chunks. So I'll add the chocolate in just a little bit. Now I'm gonna add the dry ingredients in a little bit at a time, just until they're incorporated. Okay, don't mix too much. When you have a little bit of flour left, don't go banging the glass bowls around. Just put the chocolate in there so that way you can get coated in the flour and it stays suspended in the cake. Otherwise, sometimes it can sink down to the bottom. And I also have 5 ounces of shredded sweetened coconut. You want to make sure you get the sweet kind. It just adds more sweetness and it's better in the cake. That is between 140 to 150 grams. Just toss everything together in the flour and then add it to the batter. And I like to switch to a spatula to mix this all in, just fold it in all together. If you use the whisk, you can use it, but the bits of chocolate and coconut The batter is also gonna thicken. It's gonna get stuck in the whisk, basically, the wire parts. Clean as you go. You don't want that chocolate stuck to the bottom of the baking pan and then on your oven. So transfer the batter to the baking pan. Smells so good. Smells like a granola bar right now. So the oven is preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. That's 180 degrees Celsius. This is going to go onto the center rack, and it's going to bake for about 35 minutes, maybe 40 minutes. It depends on the oven. Check on it at the 30-minute mark. Once you insert a toothpick in the center of the cake, it should come out clean. Then you know it's ready. Take it out, let it cool completely, and it'll be ready to serve. So the cake took about 43 minutes to cook in my oven, and I could have left it in there for another 5 minutes, but I do like the center to be a little bit fudgy, almost like a brownie. If you like it cooked a little bit drier, you could definitely cook it a little bit more. It does sink in a little bit if you undercook it. It's not really undercooked, but there's no egg in here or anything like that, so you're perfectly fine to take it out at the 40-minute mark, so it could be nice and soft and gooey in the center. It's gonna be like kind of like a cake, kind of like a brownie. So delicious. Let it cool completely, and then you can sprinkle some shredded coconut on top. If you want to, you can just do some plain powdered sugar or leave it as is. Put it on a serving platter, make some Greek coffee, and call some friends over because this is definitely good enough to share. Time for the taste test. Perfection. Just the right amount of tahini. Tahini is basically a sesame seed paste, if you didn't already know. And if you don't get a good brand, it tends to be a little bit bitter. So this brand, it has just the most delicious flavor. Goes so well with the coconut, with the almond flavor, with the chocolate in there. So good. You could also put some sliced almonds on top. There are so many options. You guys let me know how you're making it in the comment section down below. It's nice and light, and it's not so crumbly. A lot of times vegan cakes are very crumbly and dry. This is perfection. I hope you guys enjoy it. The recipe is on the website, www.dimitrasdishes.com. Thank you guys so much for spending time with me today. I'll see you all next time. Yes,